Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another character spotlight for Marvel's Contest of Champions. Today we will be having a look at another one of the old characters that has recently seen a minor tweak to the way that they work, and the coupled character, or the character that used to be a direct clone of this character, actually saw a recent overhaul completely to their kit. And that, of course, is Daredevil. You see them here on their screen. Now, we will talk about the Daredevil Hell's Kitchen variant of this character in a much future episode to break down a little bit how they now work and behave. And because there's been a revamp to at least one of the characters, I actually don't have a whole lot of recommendations for how this version of the character could be changed or overhauled, mainly because I think that the character is still very powerful in this iteration and how they're represented. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into the signature ability for Daredevil. But there's other things that we need to discuss before really getting into that. So let's jump right into it and discuss the way that this character works. So first off, this was a kind of shadow addition to the character. This is a fairly recent change within the last couple of months. Daredevil is always able to bypass miss opponents, or opponents if they are in a state where you would attack into them and that attack would be caused to miss. Daredevil can bypass that altogether passively because of his enhanced sensory system. There are a couple of instances where I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. Particularly, I don't think that it works really well against Ghost, because Ghost isn't cloaked. She is completely intangible, or at least that's the way that her ability is meant to work, as opposed to just being with reduced visibility, such as Hood and other characters. But at the same time, it gives Ghost a area where she can be a little bit more hardly countered. So both ways, there's things that you can benefit from, as well as things that don't make a whole lot of sense, but it doesn't make too much of a difference in terms of making that one little tweak there. So no further adjustments are going to be made to this, at least as far as I could predict. The other items in Daredevil's kit is he has a 40% chance to perform a perfect block when being attacked into, and every character has a chance of receiving a perfect block, but Daredevil has an additional 40% on top of that, which is quite nice for him, especially because when parrying incoming attacks from your opponents, there's a decent chance that you're going to end up taking no damage on that, as opposed to the standard chip damage that you still tend to see when using that parry blocking mechanic. So pretty nice to see there, and that, I'm assuming, just plays into the fact that Daredevil is a lot more sensorily aware, to the point where he can more efficiently deflect those blows as they come in, or as the opponents are approaching him. Special attacks from Daredevil have a 100% chance to boost the critical rating or give a precision buff that gives a decent buff to the character and lasts for 9 seconds, which is really beneficial because the specials 1 and 2 have additional perks if critical hits are landed on the opponent, both of which having a 100% chance to stun the opponents. The special 1 will have a 2.5 second stun, and the special 2 will have a 3.5 second stun upon landing a critical hit with any of the strikes there. And of course, you are ideally looking for critical hits on that final strike of the combo, because it allows you to get shorter rinse combos that you can layer in additional damage before getting in a full 5-hit combo before the stun fully expires. But there's still benefit to having a stun on any hits of that move as well. So pretty efficient at getting a lock on your opponent, especially if you don't have to worry about them firing a special 3 back against you. But that's really all of the base abilities for Daredevil. And I think that there are a couple of things that could be changed with him. I honestly think that making a bit more use of his billy clubs within his kit, whether that's reanimating his attacks to use those a little more efficiently, reanimating one of his special attacks to use that more efficiently as well, or even having like a chance to stun the opponent on non-parried hits of hitting into the block. I think that that would be kind of an interesting thing to add to Daredevil's kit and the way that his character functions as well. Because that's, I mean, it's a core part of the gameplay to kind of hit into the opponent's block to force them further back into a corner. And I think if Daredevil, or at least this version of Daredevil, had that chance to cause you to be stunned if you're hitting into his block just passively, I think that that could, it would certainly be annoying, but I don't think that it would be a far cry for the character, and it would cause you to have a little bit more tactful counterplay when facing off against this particular character. And of course there's characters like MODOK, and of course there's characters like Mordo who can bypass that type of counterattack stun, but all things considered, I think that that's a really interesting thing that could be implemented into Daredevil's kit. The only other item to really talk about is when Daredevil has his signature ability awakened, he has a very efficient projectile evasion ability, and upon reaching maximum potency, it's up at 100% chance to evade any projectile attack. Now, there's not a whole lot of projectiles in this game, which is kind of unfortunate, and most of them are relegated to special attacks, which is a little more beneficial because by evading the special attacks that your opponents are throwing out, that's a big chunk of damage that you can tend to avoid, especially against attacks that you can't traditionally fully block. I'm thinking of special attacks such as War Machine Special 1, Punisher 2099 Special 1, regular Punisher's Special 2, and Cable's Special 1, those attacks that have rapid fire barrages. There's not really a lot of characters that can officially get away from that. You do have Ghost, who can kind of phase out and away from it. You have Tigra, who can charge a heavy attack and bypass those effects as they come around. And you have Nightcrawler, who becomes intangible during his entire dashback animation, as opposed to just a small little invulnerability window that's granted by dexterity. So Daredevil, apart from Ghost perhaps and Tigra, is the best method of avoiding those type of rapid fire projectiles. And I don't want to see any sort of change made to this signature ability because it does offer a lot of power and counterplay for those type of scenarios. So, all things considered, Daredevil isn't terrible. A couple of additional tweaks or adjustments to his kit wouldn't be that bad. And where we've recently seen that overhaul to the other version of Daredevil, it used to be Daredevil Netflix, but they've since renamed it Daredevil Hell's Kitchen. So I really think that there's no reason that you should see substantial changes or a complete and total overhaul of this character, given that the other character by this name in this game has already been reworked fairly extensively. But what do you think? Do you agree with my take? Do you disagree? Be sure to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe for that daily variety content and leave a like if you enjoyed today's video or found it helpful or interesting. With all that being said, thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.